So thank you, Carissa, for the warm introduction and for this opportunity to speak with your community. Um, I am a midwife I've been practicing now for 27 years, and I've helped support more than 1,200 mothers through pregnancy, birth, and the developmental threshold of matrescence, which we'll speak about a little later today. And I've also been facilitating women's circles and ceremonies for a few decades and weaving midwifery, movement, and feminine power. And as a solo entrepreneur and single mama of three, I understand very well the challenges of holding our own well-being while also navigating motherhood and a mission-driven career. And after my third daughter's birth, I experienced severe postpartum depression and anxiety, which really reshaped my life and my work and inspired me to create the Motherfly program and the Motherfly concept. And which is a structured framework supporting visionary moms who are burnt out, overwhelmed, or just feeling off purpose, to help find themselves, discover their gifts, and move beyond surviving to bring their dreams to life. So I'm really excited to be with all of you here today, and I would love for you to just type yes in the chat if you want to know why self-care days aren't fixing your burnout and what actually does. And type energy in the chat if you wouldn't mind having abundant energy without adding anything to your to-do list. And I'm not used to presenting on my phone, but I am today because of some technical issues. So, okay, I can see the chat now. All right, we got an energy. Thank you, Danielle. So welcome to the Real Fix for Mom Burnout. I'd love to get to know you a bit, and we're a small group, so you could come off mute and just share where you're joining from. And when was the last time you felt truly alive? And if you don't feel comfortable sharing verbally, you can just share it in the chat. I'm just going to give you a moment to share where you're joining from and the last time you felt really alive.
I'll share, Corina.
Thank you.
My name's Danielle, and I'm joining from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for this time. And I think it did take some pondering. In general, I feel most alive when I'm by water, particularly the ocean. So the last time I felt really alive, I was just had a few days to spend by the ocean in October. And that was just really grounding for me. And I really felt like I could kind of settle in my being. Yeah, but when you first asked that question, I thought about it. I felt most vital when I was like 22, when I was in grad school, and I was only working part-time, so I had time to focus on my health and move my body as much and in ways I wanted to, and so that was a like vital time of life.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I really resonate with that need for water. I lived in Miami for 22 years, so I'm definitely an ocean girl, and it's just something about being by the ocean. It's very expansive. It feels like there's possibility. Thank you. Anyone else want to share before we continue? And oh,
Hi,
oh, hi.
I'm Nikki from Ohio. Like Danielle said, and you, Karina, I also feel very alive by the water. And I think just out in nature in general, being surrounded, fortunate to live by the lake. So, being able to go down and see the water on a daily basis is super helpful. And just being surrounded by trees and animals, and it's just very cool.
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Um, you want to pull up the slides now, Carissa? I have some slides I'm going to be sharing with you. We'll be kind of going back and forth between the slides and without them. But if you can bring those up, and I want to just acknowledge um, all of you for being here today. It takes real intention to carve out time for yourself, especially when you're a mom. So, and my promise today is that it's really about helping you to reclaim your time, your energy, and your sanity, often by doing less but better. So, I can just kind of dive in and maybe am I not seeing the slides and you guys are? Oh,
I
here we
have
go.
a I do
Okay.
have the slides up. It must be your daughter.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
No, that's
okay.
good.
Okay.
So I'm going to start by sharing something vulnerable with you. In 2016, even after 25 years of empowering mothers, I hit my own breaking point. About 3 months after the birth of my third daughter, I was overwhelmed, anxious, burnt out, and irritable. I was snapping at my kids, resenting my partner, and questioning everything that I thought I knew as a midwife and a mother. And for me, the worst part, being somebody who always had a very clear calling and passion, was feeling lost. I had always identified myself as a midwife, but it no longer felt sustainable. Next slide. So I wasn't sleeping, I couldn't enjoy my children, and I lost my passion. And I felt like a failure on every level. Next slide. And the shame was suffocating. The midwife who couldn't even enjoy her own motherhood. I was too ashamed to reach out. And so I suffered, as so many mothers do, in silence and alone, until one day I hit my rock bottom. Slide. I had taken my daughters to the Children's Museum, and I was standing at a platform at the Miami Metro Rail, exhausted and riddled with anxiety. And I looked down at the busy freeway below me and thought, I just want to jump. My heart was racing. And that terrifying thought shook me. And the only thing that stopped me were my daughters, because I couldn't let that be their story. And so in that moment, I made a vow that I would reclaim my mental health for them, for me, no matter what it took. And so I swallowed my pride. I borrowed money from my family and finally got the support that I desperately needed. And everything began to change. Next slide. Within months, I wasn't just coping, I was rising. My energy came back. I reconnected with my daughters in a way that I hadn't in years. And I left the toxic relationship that was draining me. And I stepped into the next level of my purpose. Next slide. I founded Motherfly, and which is an organization dedicated to maternal wellness and empowerment. I launched the Mother Tongue podcast. I hosted global summits. I became an international speaker. And I wrote books and I began helping other mothers not just birth babies, but birth a more powerful version of themselves. So I began to realize that I helped them not just to survive, but to thrive in their home, in their businesses, and in their dreams. Slide. Because what I know for sure is that when mothers are well, their children thrive. And when mothers live their dreams, the world transforms. And that's why I'm here to help you reclaim your wellness, your dreams, and your energy, because your thriving is not a luxury. It is the foundation for everything. Next slide, please. So it is my hope that during this event, you will identify the number one block that is keeping you stuck when it comes to prioritizing yourself, learn what actually works for burnout, and to walk away with some simple, immediate strategies. Now, as you can imagine, I can't teach you everything that I know about thriving as a mother in the short time that we have together. So, for those of you who are dedicated to learning how to leverage motherhood as a portal to your most powerful self, I will share more at the end of how we could work together. So, I would love to see, no, go back. Raise your hand if you've ever been a perfectionist. And my hand is up. I know I can't really see you guys with the slides on my phone, but chasing the perfect mother myth is exhausting and it's impossible to attain because it's actually not a human standard. It's a patriarchal construct that is slowly eating away at us. But I don't want you giving up. So I have an invitation for you. Next slide. Next time you mess up, don't say, I'm so stupid. Instead, I invite you to say, next slide, I'm so sexy. So let's just do a quick practice of that right now. I want you to imagine that you're going to speak in front of a huge crowd and you just made a big mistake. So on the count of three, I want you to unmute your line and say it with me. 1, 2, 3. I'm
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 so
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 sexy.
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 Yes. Thank you. So I'm going to do everything that I can to make this a very smooth and value-packed event. But if I mess up, and I likely will because I'm dealing with technological, just different than how I normally do things, then you can feel free to remind me of how sexy I am. But let's talk for a minute, next slide, about a 1 degree shift. So I want you to imagine that you are on a sailboat headed from Miami to Morocco. But let's say that it shifts its direction by 1 degree. And over the course of the entire ocean, this 1 degree shift means that you end up on a totally different continent. Same thing goes with this class today. You may not learn something from every single thing I say, but one insight that you have today can put you on a slightly different trajectory, which 1 to 3 months from now could mean that you are feeling radiant and realigned much sooner. So I invite you to listen for that 1 degree shift that you can implement right away, something that doesn't take extra time, but changes how you're moving through the time that you already spend. Because for most moms, the real shift isn't finding more hours. It's using the same hours with a regulated nervous system, clearer boundaries, and more support. Next slide. So I believe maternal wellness is the lifeblood of humanity. But in order to achieve this, you will need to become a fierce self-advocate. So to help you step into that, I'm going to invite you to affirm my core message, which is my wellness matters. So you can stop the slides for a moment. That way I can see people again. Okay. So we're gonna unmute again on the count of three and say that together. My wellness matters. So 1, 2, 3.
My
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 wellness
wellness
matters.
wellness
matters.
matters.
Thank you. Yes, your wellness matters. Um, and I would love for you to write in the chat two numbers. One is so in the areas of vitality and alignment, where are you right now? And where do you want to be in 1 year? So one would be like you're exhausted and completely misaligned. And 10 would be like you're radiant and aligned. So where are you now and where do you want to be 1 year from now? Oh yeah, I'm a recovering perfectionist too, Danielle. It's an ongoing process. Welcome, Christy. I just saw your text. It's interesting how many ocean lovers. Yes, and dancing. Okay, Danielle says 5 now, 8 1 year from now. Great. And Nicole 7 and going for 10. Absolutely. Perfect. Okay, so the number one block that keeps moms from prioritizing themselves in a single word, you can pull up the slides again now. And a single word is patriarchy. And that word can feel triggering for some people. So I just want to explain what I mean by it. I have nothing against men. I'm not talking about men. I'm talking about a system of power that systematically oppresses women and uplifts men. And so for thousands of years under patriarchy, women, and especially mothers, next slide, have been programmed to believe that our value comes from either our physical beauty or our ability to give care or be of service, or both, which makes prioritizing ourselves feel wrong. Next slide. The belief that in order to be a good mother, we must always be kind, patient, and attentive to the needs of others means chronically putting ourselves last. We are suffering from what Emily and Amelia Nagoski refer to as human giver syndrome in their book Burnout, which I highly recommend. It's a great book. So, according to the book, we are socialized from a very young age as little girls to either become, or as little humans, we're socialized to become either human givers or human beings. And while there are some exceptions, for the most part, boys are socialized to become human beings and girls are socialized to become human givers. And so as adults, we've internalized that oppression and it keeps us from prioritizing our own well being. And that's not to deny the existence of very real structural and cultural barriers to our wellness. And there are far too many to name in this short masterclass. But it is precisely why we need to claim our value and affirm that our wellness matters, because nobody's coming to save us. And one of the most foundational and best ways that I know how to reprogram ourselves is through the practice of self compassion. Next slide. And so I'm going to guide you through a short practice. This is the Feminine Power practice from the work of Dr. Claire Zammit, under whom I received my certification as a Feminine Power facilitator. So I'm going to invite you to, if you're able to, if you're not driving and you're able to close your eyes, and if you can't close your eyes, if you're able to just draw your attention inward, I want you to take a couple of nice deep breaths. And as you exhale, just drawing all of your awareness, all of your care, all of your attention back inside yourself, back into your own body. Just coming into a space of deep listening, of receptivity. Just for this moment, letting go of the need to know any of the answers to any of the questions that you may be holding in your life right now. And just becoming aware of all the feelings and sensations in your body. And I want you to think for a moment about the area of your life where you feel the most in your zone of genius, the most in your power, where you feel resourced and you feel like you have so much wisdom that you can offer to other people. This could be in your role as a mother. It could be in your career. It could be in your creative life or out in the garden. It doesn't really matter where it is, but finding that place of power where you feel really grounded, strong, resourced, clear. And then I want you to imagine that you're inviting a younger part of you into your space, and you may have her sit in your lap or sit next to you, however you want to visualize it. But you're inviting her into your space. And this is a part of you that is mentally, emotionally younger, more vulnerable, the part of you that gets overwhelmed, anxious, fearful. And you're just inviting her in and you're turning toward her and you're asking her the question, what are you feeling? And rather than going into your mind and trying to think about the answer, I want you to keep your awareness in your body, and you might place a hand on your belly or your heart to help you keep your focus in your body and listen. Listen for the answer from your body. What are you feeling? And when you receive your answer, you're just going to reflect back to her what you heard. You're going to say, I can see that you're feeling tired, or I can see that you're feeling overwhelmed. You're just naming what's there. You're not trying to fix it or solve it. You're just reflecting back. And then you're going to ask her the question, what do you need? And again, awareness with your breath, awareness in your body. You're listening for the answer. What do you need? And when she answers, you're just reflecting back. I can see that you need, and just naming whatever's there. I can see that you need support. I can see that you need a hug. I can see that you need rest, whatever it is. And then taking a moment to do whatever you need to do to complete with this part of you. And taking one last deep breath in. And as you exhale, whenever you're ready, opening your eyes. So I would love to hear in the chat if you want to write, what you discovered in that exercise, what your feelings and needs were, and also, any shifts that you notice in simply witnessing and mirroring back those feelings and needs without having to have a solution. And while you're doing it, I'm going to talk about the next slide. So I love this visual for the practice of self-compassion because this is exactly what we're doing, right? The outer hands represent that part of you that feels strong and wise and resourced. And they're holding the tender parts on the inside, the fear, the despair, the sadness, the grief, because we all have these parts of ourselves. And so the practice of self-compassion is really about bringing them into an empowered relationship, tending to. A lot of times we try to push those tender parts away because they don't feel good, or because we feel like nothing good could come of us giving them airtime. But the incredible thing really is that when we turn towards these parts of ourselves and we extend care and generosity, they actually dissipate quite a bit just in that practice. Okay, let's see. Yeah, you can stop the slides for now. So the biggest, okay, Danielle, I noticed lack of connection to purpose and lack of daily intention. Also noticed a need for consistent movement exercise. Yes, that's great. That's great. And sometimes, if this isn't a practice you're used to doing, it is a practice. So it is something that you have to do regularly. Like the first few times you do it, this part of you may not talk to you. Maybe she's not talking to you because you haven't been connecting with her. But the more you do it, the more she will talk to you. So um, the biggest mistake to avoid when it comes to burnout is trying to fix burnout by doing more, right? So more self-care tasks, more productivity hacks, more forcing through instead of subtracting what's draining you. So you might say things like, I'll wake up earlier to meditate, or I'll schedule more me time if I can squeeze it in between soccer and dinner. I'll plan better, organize better, try harder. But that only deepens the exhaustion because burnout isn't a time management issue as much as it is an energy depletion issue. And the only real way out is to remove the energy drains first. So that means the commitments, the guilt, the perfectionism before adding anything new. And the biggest myth that could sabotage you is, thinking it'll get better when life finally calms down. This is a trap so many mothers fall into. They think, well, once the kids get older, once work slows down, once we get through this season. But here's the kicker: life doesn't magically slow down. And even if it does for a minute, the patterns that cause the burnout, the overgiving, the over committing, the rejecting your own needs or neglecting your own needs will just fill that space again. Because burnout isn't a season, it's a cycle. And waiting for life to change won't fix it. Only changing how you operate inside the chaos will break the pattern. So that's why strategy number one is to do less but better. And if you're thinking, Corina, I already don't have time. How am I supposed to add a strategy on top of that? This one is actually the opposite. Strategy number one doesn't ask you to do more, it invites you to do less on purpose. So instead of cramming one more thing into your already maxed out schedule, we're going to gently start removing what drains you so that the time you do have feels more spacious and nourishing. So I think, let's see. Yeah, strategy number one is to drop one commitment per week. So I actually want to invite you now to pull out your phone, your calendar, and pick something. Even if it's something that's only takes 10 minutes, pick one commitment that you can drop this week. And while you're doing that, Carissa, I'll have you go ahead and pull up the slides. And I'm gonna share a story. Before my second daughter, I had a miscarriage, and it took me almost a year to get pregnant again. And each month when my cycle came, it felt like my body was failing me. Then 10 months in, I had a realization. If I was calling in this baby, I had to make space for it. And I quit a contract job that I had, and I slowed down, and I had this window of like a couple weeks where I wasn't on call. And 2 weeks later, I was pregnant. So I learned that to increase my vitality and my fertility, I had to decrease my commitments. And not only did I um, have a full-term healthy pregnancy, but I went on to create one of the most creative endeavors of my life, which was this theater piece that you see me dancing in here, called Shakti Rising, Maya's Labyrinth. And it was a cast of 28 musicians and dancers. And it told the story of my miscarriage and the road to reconception, and then the celebration of pregnancy and birth through dance and narration and ritual. And yeah, once I took that time to pour into myself and to slow down, I felt all of my creativity come to the surface. Okay, so if you, next slide, I think. Yeah, next slide. Okay. Yeah. So this is a woman who came into my program who also, took this strategy number one to heart. She was a busy, still is a busy but less busy, family practice physician, single mom, four kids. And when she came into my program, she didn't know how she was going to add anything else to her plate. But she learned to do less and be more intentional. She backed her work week down to 3.5 days from five, and then created one day a week where she was entirely dedicated to her own wellness. She started doing retreats, going on retreats regularly. And as a result, her vitality came back and she got reacquainted with her big why for getting into medicine in the first place, which was more natural and holistic medicine. And so she started to do some functional medicine workshops and create a more holistic practice. And so that's what I find over and over again is that when moms invest in themselves, they end up, rediscovering or reconnecting with their purpose, with their creativity, and being able to get back on track with their dreams and visions. So, next slide. This is a quote by Greg McCone. He says, "If you don't prioritize your life, somebody else will." And I think that's probably more true for mothers than anyone else. Next slide. So I want you to think of your energy like a closet. If you keep stuffing in more clothes, in other words, commitments, without removing old ones, everything gets wrinkled, crowded, and unusable. But when you declutter, even just one piece at a time, you create space for your best, most joyful outfits. Next slide. Or in this case, your best energy and focus. So dropping one commitment per week is like pulling out one ill-fitting shirt, right? It creates breathing room without overhauling your entire life. Now, next slide. The biggest secret to getting results with mom burnout is that small, consistent um, acts are much more powerful than big occasional self-care moments. Um, because it's not the spa day that you plan once every 6 months. It's the 5 minutes that you reclaim every single day to reset your nervous system, guard your energy, and refill your tank. Next slide. So step number one is to stop waiting for life to calm down and decide to protect your energy inside the chaos. So even though the kids are all over the place and your inbox is exploding, you can still take 5 minutes to reset. Next slide. And then drop one commitment this week, even if it's tiny. Hopefully you've already done that. If not, that's your first homework. That's your homework right after the call. Next slide. And one daily energy win that takes 5 minutes or less. So it could be dancing, it could be going outside and taking 10 deep breaths, it could be sending a voice note vent to a friend, anything that gives you a little bit of energy. And last step, next slide, is to celebrate the small win like it's huge, because stacking tiny wins is exactly what builds energy back. Um, and you may feel selfish when focusing on yourself. That is part of the patriarchal programming of motherhood. And this is the kind of deeper work that unpacking that we do inside my program, because even in knowing that the programming is there, it still takes continued support and awareness to move beyond it. So, yeah, and I would imagine that you want to feel empowered while you're taking care of yourself. You want to enjoy it, not feel guilty the whole time. So that's why strategy number two, next slide, is to treat your restoration time like a non-negotiable meeting. And a lot of moms tell me, I love this idea in theory, but there is literally no extra time in my day. So I want you to hear this. Protecting your wellness doesn't have to mean an hour. It can mean 5 sacred minutes that nobody else gets to touch. We're not pretending that your life isn't full. We're simply deciding that your nervous system and your vitality get to exist on your calendar, even in a full season. Next slide. About a month after the pandemic hit, I started to feel myself crumble under the weight of added responsibility. And I was drowning in overwhelm, waking up feeling exhausted and not wanting to get out of bed. And I knew I had to take action. So I decided to treat my restoration time like it was a business meeting. And that meant I put it on my calendar and guarded it against all intruders. So some days that looked like 30 to 60 minutes. Some days it was 5 minutes alone in my car. And so the power wasn't in the length of time. It was in honoring that my wellness mattered enough to be on the schedule. And within days, I felt grounded and energized. Next slide. Anne Lamott says, everything, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. Next slide. So think of your energy like your phone battery. You don't wait until it's completely dead before you plug it in. You top it off regularly because you know you need it to function. And so you want to schedule your recharge like you schedule your meetings because your operating system matters. And the biggest myth when it comes to tending to our wellness is, next slide, I'll do it when I have time. This is a trap because in motherhood, time rarely appears on its own. Life will always fill every available slot unless you claim that space first. And the biggest mistake to avoid when it comes to self-tending is, next slide, thinking that it has to be big, perfect, or time-consuming to count. You know, that perfectionism trap keeps moms from starting at all because they think, if I can't have the full spa day or the yoga, 60-minute yoga flow, then it doesn't count. So they skip it entirely. But the truth is that it's not about duration or perfection. It's about consistency. 5 minutes of intentional care done daily will serve you more than 5 hours done once a year. Next slide. The most important secret to prioritizing your wellness is that you have to believe that you're worthy of it. Not because you've earned it, not because you've done enough, not because everyone else is taken care of, but simply because you exist. Until a mother believes that her well-being matters just as much as everyone else's, she'll keep pushing herself to the bottom of the list. So your well-being isn't a reward for productivity or perfect mothering. It's a birthright. And I created a simple time creation method. I call it the CPD method that I'll share with you. Next slide quickly. And you might have to press a button for, yeah. So overwhelm comes from putting the wrong things first. So to create time, you're going to follow these 3 simple steps: clarify, prioritize, and delegate. Next slide. So clarify is figuring out what's important to you, your values, your desires, your dreams. A lot of times we don't know what we want. Once you're clear, you're going to prioritize it by putting it on your calendar over short term and long term. And then finally, delegate. So if you do the first 2 things and you don't do the last step, you're probably not going to end up with more time. We have to learn to delegate as moms. And, we get programmed to think that we're the only one that can do the thing, the thing right, whatever it is. And so we have a hard time delegating, but you can even delegate to your children in age appropriate ways. Um, so clarify, prioritize, and delegate. And next slide, let's see. Okay, yeah. So last strategy number 3 is to track your progress visually. And just to be clear, this is a 30-second a day kind of thing, not a whole new project. You're not creating an elaborate bullet journal unless that genuinely lights you up. We're talking about little check marks, stickers, a simple app, something that takes less time than checking a text message. And I have started a practice several months ago where I set my daily intentions in the morning, and they're for both my wellness, so my self-care intentions, and my business. And then at the end of the day, I celebrate the wins and the learnings and the wins. And that alone has shifted my consistency. And this human behavior tendency is backed by research. So next slide. Research shows that people who track progress are twice as likely to achieve their goals. Because when you can see your progress, your brain stays motivated to keep going. And that's why video games are so addictive, right? You win and you get that little dopamine hit, that positive reinforcement, which leaves you feeling satisfied and inspires you to continue. But if you've ever felt like you're doing all the right things and not seeing progress, that's where burnout loves to creep back in. So the fix is, next slide, to make your progress visible. You could use a habit tracker, a calendar, a checkbox. But when you can see those tiny wins stacking up, your brain stays motivated to keep showing up. You don't need more discipline. You just need proof that you're actually moving forward, even on those hard days. So next slide. You want to start small, make it visible, and watch what happens. And it's kind of like putting pins on a map. So when you're traveling somewhere new, you see the route laid out, and it helps you know how far you've come and where you're going. Without it, you would feel lost. And so a habit tracker gives your brain that map, proof that you're moving forward even when it feels slow. Next slide. So myth number one, small wins aren't worth tracking. And the truth is that tiny wins are exactly what build momentum. Next slide. If I miss a day, I've failed. And the truth is that progress is not about perfection. It's about patterns. So, life ebbs and flows. We just want to keep going. Next. I should just be disciplined enough without a chart. Actually, the truth is that using the chart is like tricking your brain, because your brain loves those visual cues. So it's strategy and it's smart. Next slide. So one common mistake is trying to track too many habits at once. So you want to keep it simple. Track 1 to 2 habits at a time. If you overcomplicate it, it's going to make you feel overwhelmed, which is not the goal. Next slide. And then you want to make it visible. So put it, on the fridge or on your bathroom mirror, or if you're using an app, put it on the front page of your phone. Next slide. Stack it with something you already do, so that you'll remember, like brushing your teeth. Next slide. And then celebrate the streak, not just the outcome. So every check mark is a mini victory. Consistency is much more important than perfection. Now, when I was struggling with depression and anxiety, I felt really stuck. Like I'd never get out of it, and I'd never thrive as a mom or in my business. So I want to just share a story about Heather. When she came to me, she was deeply burnt out from 2 years of caring for her younger daughter through cancer treatments. She was understandably skeptical about adding any new commitments, but she knew she couldn't continue like she was. So through my program, she learned to prioritize her wellness and reclaim her energy. She created space just for herself. And within 2 months, not only was her energy and inspiration back, she realized her dream of launching a nonprofit helping kids with cancer and disabilities. And stories like hers really fuel my passion for this work, because they reaffirm my strong belief that Matrescence is an enrichment program. When mothers are filling their cup or being watered by their loved ones, motherhood becomes a portal to your most powerful self. Now, I just dropped a big word, and it might not be familiar with all of you, so I'm going to back up here and explain for a minute what I mean by matrescence. And next slide. And I'm going to talk first about a similar word, which is adolescence. Everyone here knows what that is, because number one, we've all been through it. And number two, it's a living word in our language. And it refers to that developmental transition between childhood and adulthood, where you're going through all these different changes. Next slide. So when we become mothers, we go through all of those same changes. Our brains become highly neuroplastic. They're actually rewired. It's the first sign that you're pregnant. You can do an MRI of the brain and see that you're pregnant before you could pee on a stick and know that you're pregnant. That's how early it starts. And then there's hormone changes, physical changes, emotional, social, psychological, and spiritual. All these changes together are known as matrescence. Next slide. And I love this quote by Barbara Katz Rothman that speaks to this. She says, birth is not just about making babies, birth is about making mothers, strong, competent, capable mothers who trust themselves and know their inner strength. Every one of you who has given birth and is a mother, you know that the person that you were before and after is different. And one of my goals is that matrescence becomes a household word, because I think when we have language for something, we can better support it. So next slide. Today I shared some strategies to help you get closer to a thriving experience of motherhood. But to get all the way there, it's going to take more than a 60-minute masterclass. The problem is that mothers face tremendous external pressure from social systems and structures, as well as internalized oppression. And thanks to the prevalence of human giver syndrome, even the most disciplined moms have a hard time keeping up with prioritizing their wellness. Many resign themselves to burnout or exhaustion as the natural or normal state of motherhood. And in fact, over 90% of moms report experiencing some degree of burnout. So I see it as an epidemic. And we have to be really careful about equating common with normal. So just because something is common does not mean it's normal. It does not mean that it should be the natural state of motherhood. What moms don't realize is that the difference between surviving and thriving in motherhood is really a simple but profound shift, and it has to do with prioritizing ourselves. This is what will make or break your experience of motherhood, and what will determine whether you're just kind of barely making it through your days or you wake up excited for the day and feeling aligned with your purpose. And unfortunately, you can stop the slides for now. Unfortunately, your burnout will probably not go away on its own. And 6 months from now, I don't want you to be still in the same place. Or 1 year from now, I don't want you to be feeling depressed or anxious even. And so, would it be okay? You can just give a thumbs up if I share how we could continue to work together. You can do a thumbs up or thank you. um, and you might already be wondering, like, okay, this all sounds great, but realistically, how am I supposed to find time to work with you? And I get it. Like, every mom that I have worked with started out feeling this way. And what they discovered is that the small amount of time, relatively, that they had invested in the program actually gave them back hours of energy and presence each week, because they were no longer leaking so much time to overwhelm, decision fatigue, and emotional exhaustion. Sorry. So it's not one more thing on your plate. It's really learning how to build a different kind of plate. And sorry, you can go back to the slides now. So this is only for you if it's important for you to lift out of burnout and overwhelm and ignite your passion and purpose in the next 9 months. If that's not really a priority for you, then this is probably not for you. Next slide. So women come to me experiencing all of these different things. For some, these experiences are severe, and for others, it's just more of an underlying chronic sense of disconnection from themselves, their purpose, and their passion. Motherhood doesn't need to feel this way. And that's why I love helping mothers find their way back to themselves, so that you can make this simple shift consistently and soar, and so that you can continue to nourish your dreams and visions right alongside your children. And there is currently, next slide, there's currently nothing on the market that combines midwifery expertise, transformational facilitation, feminine power, soulful inquiry, and embodied movement to help women leverage motherhood as a catalyst to become themselves fully. So we would start with one private session together to explore where you are right now when it comes to energy, burnout, overwhelm, alignment, and purpose, and where you want to be in 9 months. And then I'll make some personalized recommendations to support you to move forward immediately. And I call this the Motherfly Discovery Session. In the session, I help you get really clear on what you want support with and, what are your unique goals and visions. Most people never get present to how important it is for them to shift out of survival and actually thrive as a mom. So because of that, they kind of go through the motions half-heartedly, feeling resigned to live with burnout or disconnection. So that's why strategy number 4 is the most important strategy of all, which is the power of commitment. So every single one of my successful clients were very committed. Their success didn't happen by accident. It wasn't luck. It was their bold, unwavering, unstoppable commitment along with my guidance and support. But we're all human and we all struggle to fully commit ourselves to what is most important to us. So before I share any next steps, I just want to name one of the quiet thoughts that often pops up for moms at this point. And it usually sounds something like, this all resonates, but I probably can't afford it. So if that's floating around in the back of your mind, you're not alone. I've been there too. And I just want to share really briefly a story that I was invited a while back, many years ago, like 14 years ago. I was invited into a women's empowerment circle that required a sizable financial commitment, as well as a commitment of time and personal growth. And I knew I needed the help, but I didn't feel like I had either of those things to give. And I was afraid it wouldn't work for me. And underneath it all, I wondered if I was worth it. But something in me knew that the real cost of not doing it was higher than the financial or time investment. So I decided to bet on myself and I found a way to make the money work. I rearranged my schedule and I chose to believe that I was worth it. And it was so worth it. I received back what I invested many times over on emotionally, spiritually, and financially. And I wouldn't be who I am today without that experience. And actually, the funds that I received from that was what I used to produce my show, to pay all of the artists. And um, so I have a question for you, and you can stop the slides. On a scale from 1 to 10, how important is it for you to feel radiant and aligned? And if you're honest with yourself and discover that your commitment is at a 7 or lower, all right, Danielle's a 9. Awesome. If you find that your commitment is lower than 7 or at 7, then I would ask you to ask yourself the question, is it low because you don't think it's possible for you, or because radiant health and wellness and alignment is just not that important to you right now? If it's not important, then don't sign up. If it is important and you just don't know if it's possible, then I invite you to borrow my confidence in you, um, until you find your own. Because I've found that if your commitment is at an 8 or higher, you can trust that your commitment will drive you to thrive. But it's not going to happen by accident. So if you can drop the link now, Carissa, you can to schedule a discovery call. Um, then there are a few questions that you have to answer. But I am offering this complimentary for anyone here in this circle. In order for you to have a complimentary session, you do have to book within the next 24 hours. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be scheduled for that time frame, but just to go ahead and book it. Um, and so we'll meet on Zoom, and I would be so thrilled to share with you and to support you.